Hello, my name is Helen Rutherford and I am founder of Emotional Respite Disability Counselling Service. We are a disability-led online mental health service offered across the UK. We have a team of disabled therapists who have a vast knowledge, both personally and professionally, to offer an advanced empathetic understanding to disability-related issues. We offer our service in a range of mediums, including video, audio, and email, to help make the service more accessible. For my case study, I'm going to describe my work with David, who is 28 with cerebral palsy, living independently and accessing therapy via video conferencing on a secure program. As primarily a person-centered counsellor, I provided the core conditions of acceptance, genuineness, and empathy to David as a basis to develop trust, rapport, and safety. David's primary needs in therapy are to be seen, heard, understood, validated, and to also be relatable. David's everyday experiences were interwoven and a holistic view was needed to support him. The biopsychosocial model suggests that to understand a person's medical condition, it's not simply the biological factors to consider, but also the psychological and social factors. Although we consider all elements of this model, we primarily look at how each one impacts a person's mental health. We work within the social model of disability, which is really important in our client work as it highlights that the person is not the problem. The social model of disability was developed by disabled people and describes people as being disabled by barriers in society, not by our impairments or difference. If modern life was set up in a way that was accessible for disabled people, then we would not be excluded or restricted. The social model of disability helps us recognize barriers that make life harder for disabled people. These barriers are identified as being the physical environment, people's attitudes, the way people communicate, how institutions and organizations are run, and how society discriminates against those of us who are perceived as different. Removing these barriers creates equality and offers disabled people more independence, choice, and control. The focus of therapy. David examined his experience of living, suffering, surviving, and finding meaning. These are often core elements to my work which go on to feed into identity, acceptance, loss, and hope. Providing a safe and confidential space for David to work through his own process was very powerful. For example, David displayed a lot of anger issues. He internalized a lot as expressing himself made him feel vulnerable. Internalizing his anger had become a coping strategy to create safety for himself. We explored this as this was something he felt suppressed him. To express himself was risky, as often he would come into conflict with his parents when he expressed his feelings. This in turn would impact on how he felt about receiving care from them. Trust was an important element of our work so that David could risk being vulnerable with me. He was often angry towards his parents who had always treated him like a child. He often spoke about his parents' expectations of him and how low they were, and he found this incredibly hurtful. He felt his view of himself conflicted with theirs. Over time, I felt that David felt seen by me as I used the core conditions to support, encourage, compliment, and praise him. I used transactional analysis theory to look at the parent, adult, child with David so he could explore how to get his needs met and how to communicate more effectively. David reported that he felt engaged with and understood in our sessions. David reported a need to relate to me as his counsellor. Relating to David achieved relational depth as it provided a level of transparency, knowledge, and understanding to my work through personal experiences and training, adopting a way of being within our sessions. The person-to-person relationship in this instance was essential in connecting with David on a deeper empathetic level. Within my sessions with David, I use different elements of solution-focused therapy, such as compliments, coping questions, exception questions, scaling, and goal setting. This has enabled David to build up his confidence and self-esteem and to focus on what his needs are as well as what he wants to achieve. I used elements of CBT theory to look at David's negative thoughts and core beliefs. David acknowledged that he often had negative thoughts. This linked to his relationship he had with his parents. We identified that the inner critic inside David's mind was his mother. David and I explored what this was like for him, and he became very emotional. David acknowledged that this was horrible, as he knew that she loved him, but that he didn't understand why she was unable to be supportive or to show him love. This was a pivotal point in David's therapy, as he had given so much emphasis to listening to his mother, which was the foundation of his conditions of worth. After this point, there was a real shift, and David started to listen to himself as he challenged his negative thoughts. I applied Kubler-Ross's 5-stage of grief to the grieving process David was going through. David struggled to come to terms with many of his difficulties, as he had not allowed himself to go through a grieving process, acknowledging his loss. David's anger was a big part of this, and he felt stuck in his anger for a long time. Allowing him to explore his anger released a lot of pent-up emotion. David used his sessions as a space to grieve. It feels like David has reached a place of acceptance, as he acknowledges that he will always have daily struggles, but that he feels in a better place to deal with those challenges than before. I got a sense that David may have never fully experienced the core conditions in his life as a marginalized member of society. I feel counselling has been a very powerful experience for him. I can see the transformation in him as he establishes a sense of self. Counselling can be a very unique experience, and I feel that using the core conditions really gave David a sense of freedom to vocalize who he is. I feel I have facilitated positive change using my skills and knowledge to underpin theory, as David worked tirelessly to become his best self. I hope this has been useful to provide an overview of some of the work that we do. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to know more about our service, you can go to our website or drop us a line, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.